This is Sky News with Lukwesa Burak.
Hello there and a very good afternoon to you. Well, the British Foreign Office has said that it's concerned at comments made by the Spanish Foreign Minister over Gibraltar. In a newspaper interview, José Manuel García said that the party is over regarding policy towards the British territory and that Spain is studying a number of measures, including closing its airspace to planes travelling to Gibraltar and imposing a €50 fee for anyone crossing the border. Well, Sky's Ty Gainwright has the latest from Westminster.
Well, what started as a row over fishing rights has very quickly escalated into one questioning the future sovereignty of Gibraltar. In a newspaper interview today, the Spanish Foreign Minister, José Manuel García Margallo, talked about what amounts to a potential economic siege over the British territory, saying that Spain was considering a €50 border crossing fee, tax investigations into thousands of Gibraltarians who own property over the border in Spain, and closing Spanish airspace to Gibraltar-bound flights. Clearly bad news if followed through upon to the Gibraltarian economy. In response, the Foreign Office has issued a statement saying that we're concerned by today's comments on Gibraltar, which we're looking into further. As we've said, we will not compromise on our sovereignty over Gibraltar, nor our commitment to its people. We continue to use all necessary measures to safeguard British sovereignty. Last weekend, we saw unilateral action taken by Spanish border control officers to delay border crossings, delays of up to 7 hours, ostensibly doing deeper checks for trafficking and smuggling, but I think people knew what it was all about. Those border delays have abated somewhat after the Spanish ambassador to London was summoned to the Foreign Office in the last couple of days. They're back to normal today. I think you could say this is a pretty restrained response from the Foreign Office to some pretty inflammatory remarks by the Spanish Foreign Minister. I think it's a case of wait and see whether this rhetoric escalates any further, turns into reality, or is this, as some commentators say, simply a strategy, a tactic by the Spanish government to distract Spanish voters from some pretty deep-seated problems in the Spanish economy.
Ty again right there. Well, we're going to speak now to the editor of the Gibraltar Chronicle, Dominic Searle, who joins me via Skype. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Are you surprised or worried by this latest move?
Not surprised. I mean, worried in the sense, perhaps to the extent only that for people who've got long enough memories in Gibraltar, the language and the style of the Spanish Foreign Minister, particularly in that interview today, is extremely reminiscent of the Franco government that closed the border in '69 for 16 years. And despite the various sort of moments of tension that we've had since 1985 when the border opened, we've never really had something that seemed, I think, to most Gibraltarians probably as racist as the language that he uses.
Well, I mean, many people are saying that the previous socialist government took a much softer approach on Gibraltar, and yet Mr. Rajoy's government is becoming rather tough, much tougher.
Well, I mean, you know, the phrase "softer approach" follows what was done by a dictatorship, literally closing people into a space, and not even letting the dead through the border for some time. So, you know, it's all relative. I mean, I think what we did have under Moratinos, he came into power when it was the 300 years since Gibraltar had been captured. And instead of making it a sort of trauma for people, actually extended a hand of friendship and said, look, the way ahead has to be one that recognizes consent. He never said that the people of Gibraltar were going to be equal to Spain or to UK as negotiators in talks, but they started out a process which was aimed at making the life between the communities of Gibraltar and Spain much friendlier, warmer, and they got there. I mean, we employ a lot of Spaniards, some 7,000 Spaniards crossing every day to work. They get paid, they pay their taxes here and so forth. It's a good relationship generally with Spaniards on the ground. But it's the rhetoric that's coming from what looked like a tantrum, and I think your reporter's comment, part of it is true. It seems to reflect more what's going on in Spain and the troubles that the Spanish government have over corruption than any real way ahead.
A tantrum it may be, but what are the realities going to be like for those living in Gibraltar, trying to cross those borders? Obviously, tourism could be affected. What are the realities going to be, and are they now? Because it hasn't stopped, has it, those border problems?
I mean, obviously what they use is basically unpredictable methods, so you don't know when there's going to be a long queue, so you don't go over. The threat of a 50-euro tax to go into and out of Spain was raised by a previous mayor of La Línea, who was part of the government team then. It's a different mayor now. And that was, you know, they took it to the extreme of starting sort of some physical changes at the border, but then dropped it because I think the Spanish workers themselves started protesting. I think if these measures were suddenly imposed in one go, you'd get as much as a negative reaction from the neighboring Spaniards, who've always been left in a rather dark hole economically. I mean, the unemployment beside Gibraltar is greater than in the rest of Andalusia, which is the worst in Spain. You're talking about 40% unemployment in the neighboring town. So they're not too happy, you know, about what's going on. And I think a lot of this is rhetoric now, but I think it's aimed at hurting Gibraltar over people, you know, investors and so forth. You also have to look out that some of the statements made today by the Spanish foreign minister are actually totally inaccurate. He talks about taxing gaming. Gaming has already been taxed in Spain.
Why did the people of Gibraltar feel that they needed to drop concrete blocks to create this artificial reef? Is that a necessity?
Well, I don't think it's a necessity. It was part of a process. Spain spent, you know, the last 20 years complaining always that we failed to comply with the EU laws and regulations. And in the last few years, you know, Gibraltar governments, this current one and the previous one, actually caught up with all those regulations, including finance centre and all the other areas of complaints that the Spanish government had. In fact, it's probably one of the places that's most ahead in terms of implementation. I think the British government recognised that there was a right to go ahead with these environmental protection. You could argue, and I mean, I'm certainly a person who's always believed that there should be dialogue with Spain, although I don't think it'd be done with this current government. But that Spain was going to react badly, and that could have been predicted. But at the same time, Spain has, you know, it comes in a wave of constant, if you like, assertion by the Spanish government that it controls the waters. This is not new. The concrete blocks come 2 years after Spanish gunmen, you know, have come in. Spanish Guardia Civil have come into Gibraltar firing guns and on land. And more recently, there was the incident of the jet skier who had rubber bullets fired at him. You know, this is really more about an assertion of sovereignty of the waters.
OK. Dominic Searle, the editor of the Gibraltar Chronicle, thank you for your time there.